Hello and welcome to the Saturday, January 19th meeting of TV Toastmasters. Welcome to those in the audience, but to those looking at home as well. We hope you'll come find out more about TV Toastmasters by logging on to tvtoastmasters.com. TV Toastmasters meets the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. and the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Community Center located at 7850 5 Mile Road. We have a great meeting in store for you today. It's our International Speech and Evaluation Contest. Before we turn it over to the Toastmaster today, I wanted to announce that on April 13th, TV Toastmasters will be hosting an effective listening workshop at the Anderson Community Center at 9:30 a.m. To find out more details, please log on to tvtoastmasters.com. And now I will turn over the meeting to our contest chair, Mr. Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, everyone. As Michelle said, today we have our club's International Speech and Evaluation Contest, and I think that we're going to have a really good meeting here today. This is an opportunity for us to hear from a variety of speakers. We all are going to learn something from each one of them. I'm the contest chair for today's contest. I'm going to be introducing our Toastmaster for this meeting momentarily. We are going to basically conduct this as two separate contests. We will do the speech contest first, the International Speech Contest, and we have 3 contestants for that. Our second portion of the meeting will be our evaluation contest. We have 4 contestants for that, and we also have a test speaker. And all 4 of the contestants in the evaluation contest will be providing an evaluation for our test speaker. With that, I want to go and announce or introduce our Toastmaster for today's meeting, Shankar Raswa. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Steve. Well, if you are not tired of the thank yous again, thank you all for coming today. Actually, a special thanks because when I was driving this morning, I was listening to the FM radio, and they were talking about how cold it was in Southern California yesterday and a couple of days ago. And people have been fussing about it a whole lot. And they have been not expecting this terrible winter this time. And the temperature was in the low 50s. Mm-hmm. So you have all come a long way to attend this morning meeting. So we got a good list of contestants today. So we have all our speakers who will be introduced by their name, speech title, and name only. And I'll read the order in which the speakers will come up now. Rick Barron, Rick Davis, and Michael Washington. Again, the order is Rick Barron, Rick Davis, and Michael Washington. Now for our first speech, I'd like to call upon Rick Barron, role reversal. Role reversal, Rick Barron.
Thank you, Shankar. I can handle the gray hair. Even the growth of my forehead and the hairs growing out of my ears. But there's one thing about the aging process that's mentally difficult to accept. At some point in time, the traditional role of parent and child reverses, and we begin parenting our parents. Who can relate? We start life thinking that we'll live forever. Then we hope our parents will. But somewhere along the way, we're challenged with a reversal of the traditional roles of parent and child. Parents serve 3 basic roles. The first is the role of caregiver. We're born completely dependent on the care of our parents, physically unable to survive without them. Depending on your family of origin, that may last anywhere from 5 to 25 or more years. There was a period in his life when every time I saw my father, he was in a hospital bed or in the ICU. I didn't physically provide his care, but I was responsible for overseeing it during my shift. I would sit in a dark room with my laptop while he slept, playing sergeant at arms for the doctors and nurses that came through the door, reacting to every sound he made or movement that he did in the bed. I spent so much time in those bedside chairs that I thought they were designed by the nurses to be the most uncomfortable chairs on the planet, so you would never spend the night in them. The second role that parents serve is that of entertainer. When my granddaughter was young, she was fond of saying, "Pop, I'm bored." For those of you that don't speak English, that means, "Pop, entertain me." In April 2011, my father called me in South Carolina while I was driving from Florida back to Cincinnati. After the normal pleasantries, he asked me to drive from South Carolina all the way to Palm Springs, California to pick him up. I'm bored. Then to drive all the way back across country with him, exploring the sights. Entertain me. In June, we drove 2,254 miles together over 2 weeks, exploring portions of California and Nevada on the trip of a lifetime. We toured Alcatraz. We explored a gold mine. We visited a ghost town. We experienced Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks, and we relaxed in Las Vegas. I was given an opportunity to rediscover my first best friend. The third role that parents fill is that of mentor. Parents shape and guide our development and decisions for decades. They're our first trusted advisors and the smartest people we know at age 4 or 5. Then they catch some age-related disease, and by the time we're 12 or 13, they are literally the dumbest people on the planet. Their intelligence begins increasing as we get into our 20s, but somehow we surpass them once again as they turn to us for life advice. Financial, relationship, spiritual, we covered them all on our trip. The man that provided and cared for a family of 5 somehow was unable to make decisions that seemed so obvious to me. I accepted the opportunity to mentor my dad through some stormy waters, exploring a new and different phase of our relationship. One I discovered was characterized by mutual trust, admiration, and love. I returned to California in 2011 to help my dad settle into his own place. On the first full day of my visit, he fell in the parking lot of the hospital and was admitted. The depth and breadth of our relationship grew as he prepared himself for the most difficult decision of his life: undergo open-heart surgery for a second time to have a chance to regain his life and his health, or continue living in a broken-down shell. I encouraged him to demand more from life and accept the challenge. After 7.5 hours of surgery, 1 new and 2 repaired heart valves, I sat at his bedside holding his hand in the ICU. The next day he was out of bed, sitting in the chair that I traditionally sat in. The day after that, he was walking laps in the ICU, talking to the nurses about all the plans that he had for his life. The next morning, the nursing staff was making plans to move him to a room, and I stepped out to get something in the parking lot. When I returned, he was dead. That fast. It was over. I learned to enjoy our new relationship, but discovered our roles hadn't reversed at all. Dad was continuing in his role as parent, allowing me to practice a skill that I hadn't learned: compassion. From my perspective, our relationship moved into new territory, blurring the traditional role between father and son. I see now that he was coaching me through the most difficult lesson of my life: how to let go. Thank you, Dad. Class dismissed.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
I would say pride in the word
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease
Freedom
like
requires
Raswa,
leadership,
there are
and
no
leadership requires
parties.
oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
So next speaker is Rick Davis. Fired. Fired, Rick Davis.
You're fired. Who in the audience has ever been fired from a job? I was fired from graduate school, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. My story begins, we had just made a move from New York to Portland, Oregon, and I was starting graduate school at the medical school in medical psychology, actually behavioral psychology. And I was at the zoo. The director of research at the zoo was my mentor, my advisor, and I was just happily doing my work. I was taking classes at the school. I was helping with various behavioral projects. I had a couple things going on, and to me, everything was going great. I was on my way to doing my dissertation. I thought I had a topic that I picked out. And little did I know that there was a lot of politics going on. And it happened that one day I was called into the principal's office. I was called into my advisor's office. And his office is set up very strange. It's like a big boardroom. And I remember being called in there. It was very strange. And I was sitting at this big table, big boardroom table, sitting at one end. He was sitting at the other, and he'd invited in one of the senior research folks. And I didn't really know what was going on, very clueless. And he told me, Rick, I think you have not been making the progress that you should be making, and I think you should go look for work somewhere else. What? I thought I was doing a great job. What did I do? You're fired. What did I do? You're going to have to go someplace else. Well, as Abraham Lincoln says, I was too old to cry, and it hurt too much to laugh. The question is going through my mind. What do I do now? I've spent the last 2 years invested in this program. I've worked I thought really hard. I've actually had some efforts, some outputs from all my work. What do I do? What do I do? I'm going to have to go look for another college, another university. I'm going to have to go get a job. What do I do? And luckily, I did something that I think when you're in a bad situation like that, you need to go talk to somebody that knows more than you do, somebody that is more experienced. And I went and I talked to one of the professors in the department, and I said, what do I do? I'm going to have to go ask for letters of recommendation. I'm going to have to go apply to graduate schools. I'm going to have to go find a job. He said, no, 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 no. He said, you're not fired from the university. You're just fired from the zoo. Go find yourself another advisor and see what you can come up with. I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I talked to some other people. And he said, I remember him saying, who do you think highly of? Who do you think you could work with in the future? And it turned out that I had done a course with this one professor in at the Kresge Hearing Research Lab, which is a lab associated with a school. And he worked in the ear. He worked in studying drugs that damage the ear. So I made an appointment, and I went over and talked to Bob, and I said, I'm in kind of a rough situation here. I'm now without an advisor. I'm going to have to do something. I'm either going to have to go find a job or something. And he said, well, you can come here. Why don't you come here? I said, I don't know anything about the ear. I've been basically doing animal behavior. I've been doing all this experimental psychology and whatnot. And he said, that's no problem. We'll figure it out. So there were some things I had to finish up at the zoo. It took about 4 months to get out from under all of the obligations I had there and getting things cleared up and whatnot, which was another strange thing because I was fired, but yet I was still working at the zoo part-time. But at the end of, this is in 1977, in August of 1977, I went to work at the Kresge Hearing Research Lab. And it changed my life. Literally, it changed the course of my work, the course of who I am. I went into a very supportive environment. And because of this group that pulled me in my time of need, my time when I was fired, I became who I am today. Since then, I've kept very close contact with them. A couple of years ago, the director of the research lab passed away. That was sad. But my advisor's retired. He's hanging in there, having a great time. And the moral of the story is that even though you're at the bottom of your life, that was probably the worst thing that had ever happened to me up to that point. I was 26 years old, being fired. That even though being fired was probably the worst thing that had ever happened to me in my life, it was probably the best thing in the long run. And I hope that you'll take that away, that in the future, that even when things look really down, there's only up from there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Michael Washington, fear, finish, fulfillment. Fear, finish, fulfillment. Michael Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fear, finish, fulfillment. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of, Michelle? What are you afraid of, Rick? Is it this world coming to an end? Was it the fiscal cliff? Is it winning this speech contest, Rick? Now that would be a beautiful thing. Fear, finish, fulfillment. Fear. Fear. Ten years ago, I had a swim test. I had to swim 100 yards. I had to climb up a ladder, stand on a 10 feet high platform, jump into 10 feet deep of clear blue water. Finish. Finish. Now, to some people, that might be easy. That might be real easy to some people. But for me, it was real hard. It took me 4 days to get the courage, to get the nerve, to get the confidence, to climb up that ladder, to jump off that 10 feet platform, to jump into that 10 feet deep of water. Now, the pool, it was designed where the middle was deep and the further out near the edge, the water became shallow. Now, I leaped from that platform into the water and I started swinging my arms like I never swung my arms before in my life. I started swinging. I started pedaling my legs. And then there was a small voice. That small voice said, "Don't get tired. Don't get tired. Whatever you do, don't get tired." Too late. My muscles were exhausted. I couldn't move an inch. Then I called out to a lifeguard. I said, "Hey, lifeguard, lifeguard." He was sitting in his chair. He leaned up, pulled his shades down. He scanned the pool, looking to see where the voice came from. He couldn't hear where I was coming from, so he sat back down in his chair. I said, "Hey, lifeguard, lifeguard, over here, lifeguard." This time he hopped out of his chair. He looked to see it was me. "Just get out of the water. Just get out of the water. Just get out of the water." I couldn't believe he was saying. I was standing. I was exhausted, tired, couldn't move. Fulfillment. Fulfillment. I laugh. I laugh, folks, because as I told you in the very beginning, the way the swimming pool was designed, the middle was real deep. Near the edge, the water became shallow. Now I'm 6 feet tall. 6 feet tall. The water stopped right here. I'm 6 feet tall, and I was standing in 3 feet of water. Now I thought I was in trouble. I was calling out to a lifeguard. I'm 6 feet tall. The water stopped right here. I thought I was in trouble, but I was fine. Now you might be missing the message here. But overall, fear, finish, fulfillment. Fear, finish, fulfillment. The fear was climbing up a ladder, standing on a 10 feet tall platform, jumping into 10 feet deep of water. Finish was swimming 100 yards. The fulfillment was overcoming the fear, passing the swim test. The fulfillment was completing the objective. The fulfillment was finding something funny throughout the whole process. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Doctor says, chicken says...
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
Welcome back. So we begin our next contest now, the evaluation contest. And the purpose of this contest is to encourage the development of evaluation skills and to also recognize the best as encouragement to all. And we have a test speaker today, Billeen McCowan, and her topic for the day is going to be decision fatigue. Billeen McCowan, decision fatigue. Decision fatigue, Billeen McCowan.
What's for dinner? What to wear tomorrow? We each make many decisions like these every day. Is there a biological impact in making a decision? 3 prisoners up for parole, all having committed similar crimes and served 2/3 of their sentence. The first prisoner went before the parole board at 8:30 a.m. having committed fraud. The second prisoner before the parole board at 3:15 p.m. having committed assault. And the third prisoner before the parole board at 4:30 p.m. having committed fraud. Now, one of the 3 stood a much greater chance of being granted parole, and it had nothing to do with the crime they committed or the time they had served. In fact, the one that went before the parole at 8:30 a.m. was granted parole. The other 2 were not. These were 3 of over 1,100 cases studied over the course of a year in a study conducted out of Case Western by Roy Baumeister. What they learned was an interesting trend. If the case had been heard earlier in the day, 70% of the time they were granted parole. If later in the day, only 10%. Why is this? They found when we make decisions, our brain actually uses glucose. Let's walk through an example, something I'm sure you can relate to. You go to buy a new car. When you walk in, you're greeted with that warm smile and the questions begin. Would you like an SUV or a sedan? Use a little glucose. Would you like what color? Red, blue, silver? Use a little glucose. Would you like a manual or automatic? Use a little glucose. Leather or cloth? Use a little glucose. Would you like a sunroof? What other features? At the end of the day, you're exhausted, and your new car includes rust-proof protection. It's exhausting. What happens when we get to the place of decision fatigue? A couple of things. Number 1, you make careless or reckless decisions. Now, marketing folks have been onto this for years. Perfect example, you take a journey through the grocery store. You make so many decisions, there's so many things to buy, and the marketing is wonderful, and the impulsive purchases, and then you get to the cash register exhausted. And what do they offer? Plenty of options to replenish your glucose. Another thing that you do, if it's not a reckless or careless decision, is it would be do nothing. This is what was happening with the judges. They decided, for fear of possibly making a wrong decision, let's leave everything the same. Prisoners had to go back to jail. Now, in knowing that there is a biological impact in making a decision, the things that can happen as a result of it, how do we combat that? There's 3 ways. Number 1 is plenty of rest. Number 2, as we alluded to, increase your glucose. If you get to the point that you're feeling depleted, there could be a short-term solution. Grab that Reese cup or that Snickers bar at the cash register when you're grocery shopping. Something a little more long-term would be protein. The third thing that you can do is actually conserving your willpower. An example. You're debating, I am going to decide tomorrow morning if I'll go to the gym to work out. No. What you do, call a friend, have them meet you there. What you've just done is you've saved yourself from making that decision tomorrow. The other thing that you've done is you've built in some accountability. Now, in knowing that there is a biological impact in making decisions, what happens as a result when you become depleted of glucose after making all of those decisions, and ways that you can combat them. Roy Baumeister stated it as, those that are the best decision makers are those that know when not to trust themselves. So, fish or chicken, what's for dinner? You decide. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
All these decisions, quick decisions without preparation, you get very tired very quickly. I was just on a trip into where I was, and this kind of relates to me, and this is what I like about this speech because it gave me something that I could relate to actually this week. Decision fatigue. I think the objective here, what I got out of the objective for decision fatigue, is how the biology affects your decision-making process. And I think Baleen did this real well. First, she says what decision fatigue was. And one of the things she cited some cases. She said that it was a loss of glucose, which is a loss of sugar, not having enough, either by not eating or expending it very quickly. And that's what happened to me. I was expending the glucose very quickly on just trying to decide where I was, and I got tired right after that very quickly. So she kind of gave us some explanation from a technical standpoint on what glucose was, but she brought it in with stories too. She brought in the judge trying to make decisions and why that judge made particular decisions the way they did, and it was because of lunch. So that was one of the decision fatigues. You don't have enough glucose or food in your body. So she's relating how you get fatigue from not having enough glucose in your body. And then she goes into how to combat it. So she gave us a nice problem, a good story to start with, and then what to do. So she told us something. She said, go ahead and get a lot of rest, which is very good. Also replace your glucose, eat, and then be prepared. For example, I wasn't prepared where I was, so I lost it. So she told us what it was. She told us how to handle glucose fatigue. She cited state case studies, which gave me some confidence. Hey, she looked all this up. And what I really liked about the speech, examples. She had an example of glucose being poured into a jar and how that is working. Some improvements. I just had to catch up, maybe because I was a little fatigued myself and I had to evaluate this. In the beginning with the numbers, 8:30, 12:30, I got a little caught up in all the times and I'm thinking, should I remember these times? And it got me kind of looking at too many details in the beginning about the times. It may have been better if she didn't come into all those details and just said before and after lunch, kept it simple. But what I liked most about this speech was I really learned something. It gave me some practical knowledge, and I thought it was a well-rounded speech.
Our second contestant now, Michelle Lewis. Michelle Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, honored guest, and most especially Boleen. Decision fatigue. What a fantastic speech. You made it challenging for me today to give you an evaluation, but hopefully I can give you some positive feedback as well as some areas to improve. You had a great opening. Really caught my attention. I could tell everybody was kind of looking. All these questions that we face every day. So great opening, great examples. Throughout the entire speech, you gave examples and really put in perspective the message that you were trying to convey. So fantastic job. You talked about the prisoners, you talked about buying the car, and you used props. The use of the glucose prop really helped us to actually see what you were saying. So fantastic job. The vocal variety was really strong. You slowed down at certain times, you got excited at certain times, and you really used a concrete variety of vocal. And your movements and your facial expressions. You really engaged us, you were excited, you were energetic, and really helped us to understand the story you were trying to tell. And then most importantly, what I really liked is that you stated the problem or told us that there's biological impact in making this decision, and then you gave us 3 solutions. So get rest, increase your glucose, and conserve your willpower. So you gave us 3 takeaways to deal with an everyday problem that we probably never even realized was a problem. For a few areas of improvement, the use of pauses. I think you were so excited and you did such a great job of delivering your speech, but if you would have taken a little step back at certain times to help us absorb what you're saying, that might have helped a little bit. And the other area that just a slight improvement with your use of the glucose prop, you didn't tell us up front what it was, so you started into the car example and then you kind of said use a little bit of glucose. So maybe up front, if you would have stated this is the glucose, so right away we know exactly what you're telling us or what you're showing with the prop. And then finally, one last area of improvement, at one point during your speech, you referenced back to the judges from the cases about the prisoners, but I wasn't sure that you were actually referenced an earlier point in the speech, so if you would have said now referring back to the prisoners or the judges in the speech, then it would have clicked right away. Your closing was absolutely phenomenal. You did a great job of bringing it back. So you started with your what's for dinner, and then you close with your what's for dinner. So overall, a really enjoyable speech, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Our third contestant, Rick Barron. Rick Barron.
Thank you, Shankar. Decision fatigue. Congratulations, Boleen. This is the first time I've actually ever experienced the topic that I was evaluating. As I sat back there to try to come up with ideas, what was good, what needed improvement, oh my gosh, I'm fatigued. And I went for the candy, some glucose. So I actually learned something while I was back there too. In sitting back and evaluating the speech that you gave, a few things that I want to congratulate you on. The first one was the opening. The way that you opened the speech was great because it drew us in. What's for dinner? What am I going to wear? Drew me in, got me to think. You picked a relevant topic that we all struggle with, always forced to make decision after decision after decision. And use great examples with the car, shopping for a new car, and grocery shopping, things that we all do every day. Great eye contact, good gestures, very comfortable presence up here, and that's difficult. in this environment for people who are not familiar with the lights and the camera, and it can be a little intimidating. You did a fabulous job. The research that you referenced from Case Western, drawing in an expert opinion and using the expertise is a great way to bring credibility to the topic and to your speech. Congratulations. Great, great use of those tools. 2 ideas to improve the effectiveness of the speech. The first one is a little more vocal variety. In the car shopping example and the grocery store example, you can use vocal variety to really highlight things, the sales process that occurs in a car dealership, and just the hustle and bustle of what's going on in the grocery store about where you're going and you got to get to. I think vocal variety would make a great addition in those 2 areas. And a little bit more grander gestures. Picking the Snickers bar off the shelf, peeling it back and taking a bite out of it. A few little things like that, I think, would go a long way towards improving the speech. Decision fatigue. Absolutely something that we all struggle with on an everyday basis. You did a great job of helping us to understand what it is that we're struggling with, provide us some tools that we can use to overcome it, and entertained us during the process. Thank you, Baleen.
Our 4th and final contestant, Shena Stayden. Shena Stayden.
First of all, where is she? Baleen. What an interesting name you have. My name's Shena, and I thought I had a doozy. No one can pronounce my name the first time around, and I would imagine you have had that problem with your life, so I feel you on that. What I'm going to do for you today is tell you exactly why your speech was good, because overall I liked it. Then I'm going to move on to suggestions, and then move on to what I call my keep it ups. Okay? So first of all, I have 4 criteria for your speech itself. Then I have 2 for you as a speaker. So, number 1, was the speech attention grabbing? You didn't even have to speak at first, and it was attention grabbing. You had glasses on here, then you started talking about parole, and then you threw some statistics at me. It was just impressive. I liked it. And then your intro was also very interesting with the scenario that you painted with the 3 people and parole. I loved that. I love when speakers create a scenario for the audience. It really engages them, keeps them engaged. Number 2, was the speech interesting? Yes, I already said yes that it was. My favorite was your demonstration when you're like, use a little bit of glucose, and then it was blue. I'm glad that it wasn't just water. I love how you add color to that. And then number 3, was there a call to action or an obvious main point? Yes. It was very obvious. We were talking about decision fatigue, what you can do to combat that. It was very obvious. I knew exactly what was going on the whole time, and that's the point. Good job. Was it well organized? Absolutely. It was so organized, in fact, that I was able to write one word and just go throughout your speech. Like I said, intro, and then I moved on to the explanation, combat the fatigue, and then on to your 3 main points. It was great. It was very easy to follow. And on to the 2 criteria of you as a speaker. Were you engaging? Absolutely. I think you are a very warm and engaging speaker. It was a pleasure to listen to you, and it was a very interesting topic, which makes it even better. And on to effectiveness in terms of your use of pace, eye contact, gestures, and there's one other I have here, and pauses. I thought your eye contact was perfect. I looked at you a couple of times, you looked at me, I saw you looking at them over here, it was wonderful. Your pace, I think, was a bit fast, but we'll move on to that later. And I thought your gestures were really warm and inviting. And pauses and pace, those are what I'm going to move on to now. Those are the two things that I have in my suggestion category. I think when you were painting the scenario in the beginning, you could have paused a little bit afterwards just to let people see. And then pace, it was a bit fast, but overall I could understand everything. And then my keep it ups, keep describing scenarios, that's very important. Keep using stats and props, that's awesome. And continue your speaking style. Thanks.
Thank you, Shena.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
The winners from today's speech will be advancing to the F-Loop Division Contest. Well, actually, before that, the winners from today's contest will be advancing to the Area 52 Contest, because we have Club Contest, then we have the Area Contest, then we have the Division Contest, and the winners at that level would go on to the District Contest, which will be in spring at the Spring Conference. The Area 52 Contest date has not yet been announced, so that's something that we will have to keep today's first and second place winners appraised of, so that they know where they have to be and when they have to be there. And then the winner from the area contest will go on to the F-Loop Division Contest, and that contest will actually be on Saturday, March 16th, and it'll be held at the Cincinnati Financial Center in Fairfield, Ohio. For those of you who haven't had an opportunity to attend other Toastmaster speech contests, I'd encourage you to consider attending the area, the division contests, because it's a lot of fun and you get to see a lot of speakers from different clubs, and each of them has strengths that we can learn from. I'd like to ask our chief judge if we have our results.
We do.
Okay. And Michelle, would you come up here to help me with announcing our winners and giving out the certificates?
I put 3 on, but you normally would only, because you only have 2 contestants, so we do 1 and 2.
Okay. So do I?
You can do all 3
Oh,
if you
okay.
want. I mean, that's the norm, just in case you would.
All right. If I'm a stickler?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to put number 4 in. But you know who number 4 is. But let me write her name.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we'll start with the International Speech Contest. And we have our results here. Yeah, well, we're not supposed to pound on the lectern because it reverberates through the microphone. Okay. Help me welcome up our third place international speech contestant today, Rick Davis. Congratulations. Help me welcome up our second place international speech contestant today, Michael Washington. Congratulations. You guys should.
Congratulations.
Congratulations from the club president, too. Michael will be the alternate in the event that our first place contestant cannot attend the area contest. So don't lose that speech, Michael. And our first place for the International Speech Contest today is Rick Barron. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You'll be representing TV Toastmasters at the area contest. And we'll
Look forward to it.
We'll let you know when and where it's happening.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to our evaluation contest winners. Our third place contestant is Paul Wessels. Paul? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Our second place contestant, I don't have to call up here, is Michelle Lewis. Congratulations. And Michelle then will be the alternate contestant in the event that our first place evaluation contestant cannot attend the area contest. Our first place contestant for the evaluation contest is Rick Barron. Rick?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And at least you'll have just one place to go for both contests.
Exactly. That works out nicely. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to also thank all of our judges and the timers, our chief judge who stepped up and helped us. We had a couple things we had to address before our contest started today. One of our people that we were planning on having help us became ill, so we had to shuffle things around a little bit. But I would encourage you to come to the area contest. The chief judge there always needs additional judges, people to help with the contest. So I would encourage you to think about keeping that time open as soon as we know when it's going to be. Let me turn this back to our club president, Michelle Lewis. Madam President?
Thank you, Mr. Contest Chair. So what a great meeting today, an exciting contest. We're going to have great representation in the area contest. So hopefully you guys can come and support Rick in that success to go to the next level. Again, thank you for all who participated. Our Toastmaster for the day, Mr. Shankar, Raswa, and a special thanks to Boleen for being the target speaker. Phenomenal job. We appreciate the effort. To our other judges, who I don't know who they are, but to those in the audience that participated as the judges, we appreciate the support. It takes so many people to pull together to make a contest successful, and we had a ton of support today. Thank you to our chair, or our contest chief judge, who stepped in, Sheila Mudbaker, in literally 2 seconds before the contest started, so we appreciate that, Sheila. And last but not least, those who participated in the contest. It's always an exciting event, and it's sometimes nerve-wracking, but honestly, it's a great opportunity to continue to develop your skills. So we appreciate those who participated today. Round of applause. One thing before we close the meeting, I want to remind everyone that on April 13th, TV Toastmasters will be hosting an effective listening workshop here at the Anderson Community Center at 7850 5 Mile Road at 9:30 a.m. We'll have more details on our website, so please log on to check it out at www.tvtoastmasters.com. And this concludes our January 19th meeting. Thank you.